Well, I want to talk through another look at the invisible hand theorem. And that invisible hand theorem says under very special conditions, perfectly competitive market outcomes will achieve what we call economic efficiency. And economic efficiency is defined as the maximum total surplus for the economy. So let's just focus on the onion market. Let me remind you, I'm going to use some colors here. Let's use blue. Blue's good, right? Remember that consumer surplus, we talked about it in class, it's the difference between the willingness to pay for the first unit and the price actually paid for that first unit, plus the willingness to pay for the second unit, minus the price actually paid. The surplus on the first unit, surplus on the second unit, third unit, fourth unit. When we're all done, we've got this blue area above the price line, below the demand curve, and that's what we call consumer surplus. Likewise, let's pick a different color. I guess green's another good color. On the producer side, the price paid by consumers is the gain to producers. Excuse me. And the seller of the first unit would have been willing to produce for this low marginal cost, but got the price. So they had this vertical distance as surplus. This producer of the second unit got the market price, but would have been willing to supply the good for this low marginal cost. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, we've got all these producer surpluses associated with each level of output. When we add them all together, we get this green shaded area. It's the area above the marginal cost curve or the industry supply curve, below the industry price line, and we call that producer surplus. Now, it's going to turn out that the sum of producer and consumer surplus, let's get yet another color. I want another pleasant color. I guess we'll go a little of a lighter green. The sum of consumer and producer surplus is this whole area that's called total surplus. And this area is as big as it can be under the perfectly competitive market outcome. CS plus PS equals TS. Got a little bit crunched there. Anyway, we can see that by observing the following. At any output level less than Q naught, let's just look at Q naught minus 1, notice that the surplus is only this trapezoid, which is smaller. So if we, at any output less than the competitive market outcome, we lose some total surplus. Likewise, if we consider the point Q naught plus 1, a little bit more, well, it turns out that for every unit past Q naught, the costs are greater than the benefits, and far from being surplus, these costs over benefit are actually what we might call negative surplus. So we're losing well-being. So again, any output beyond the competitive market outcome is going to be less efficient in the sense that total surplus is going to be smaller. So the competitive market outcome is economically efficient in this sense. We are making a couple of hidden assumptions. Critically, we're assuming that externalities are zero. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. So, what's so great about efficiency? Well, it's not fair. It could be that the people that are willing to pay that are getting the product are really jerks, and the people that really need it and are good people aren't. And we want to help the latter. Among various policy choices, some policies make the size of total economic surplus smaller, and the problem with those policies are that there's less benefits to distribute among members of the economy. If we can achieve an efficient outcome but then redistribute in a fair fashion, then the pie is as big as it can be and everybody's getting a fair share. That's easier said than done, and this is one of the great issues in economics. The problem is efforts to redistribute. Let's say you do it just in the heavy-handed way and tax the rich and give the money to the poor. Well, you're raising tax rates on people who are working hard and risking their investment, their wealth to invest in promising opportunities. If you start taxing that, well, you reduce the incentive to do that, and all of a sudden there's less being done. So also, if you just give people a salary, whether they work or not, well, then, why work so hard? And so on both sides of the equation, you could be reducing the incentive to work. And so the economic pie, remember, it gets big because everybody's working hard and thinking of new, better ways to do things. If you start reducing the incentive to do that, be through redistributive taxes and indeed the transfers to the poor, well, you can end up with a set of policies that makes the pie smaller. So that's a great policy challenge, is how do you correct these injustices and undesirable social economic outcomes without reducing the incentive to economic agents to work hard and invest their money in productive opportunities, etc. There's not an easy answer. I could talk for the rest of the semester. I wouldn't get you to the easy answer to that question, but that's what we're going for. And you'll have your chance during that film festival. We'll have at the end of the year. You'll have your chance as a group to develop a policy proposal in one of these areas to try to think through something that would bring about a high amount of gain for as little cost as possible.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.